Kathy Stringer, we are live. Please do not swear. How you doing? You okay?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, very happy.
Bro, welcome to the Rokman podcast. First time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Yeah,
No
it's such
worries.
a pleasure.
First
Um,
female as well.
really?
But yeah, I don't know many females, so other than my wife, yeah, you're the only other one, I think.
Well, have me on as many times as you like because I can talk.
Yeah, no, you've said that. Didn't you say you lost your voice talking recently or something?
Yeah, I lost my voice. I'm actually still a bit croaky now, to be honest. Yeah, I lost my voice at the weekend doing too much celebrating.
Bit of singing, bit of karaoke, bit of shouting.
Yeah, so well, it started on a bike ride. Obviously, you have to shout when you're on a bike ride, and I was riding for about 4 hours. So it started to go a bit hoarse after that, and then yeah, lots of singing in the evening in Manchester. So yeah.
And well, not to give anything away too soon, but we will touch on the reason why you're celebrating. If people don't know already, Jesus, where have you been? Why aren't you following Kathy's and Rokman's posts? But if you're not aware, we will touch on that. Now, before we start, I've got a couple of public service announcements for the blog for the podcast.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Rokman is a mental resilience focused running movement for those with a deep desire to push their limits, forge unbreakable resilience, and improve their health and well-being. We provide the information, tools, and support to inspire action to overcome the most intimidating challenges possible in running, fitness, and life. The aim of this podcast is to offer up
Sign
some
up if you
insight.
haven't already.
Sorry, what was that?
I said sign up if you haven't already.
If they haven't already, what the hell have they been doing?
Exactly.
Get on it. Rokman.co.uk, sign up. So the aim of this podcast today is to offer up some insight and information on pushing our limits and hopefully inspiring others to go out and push their own limits in order to improve their own resilience, fitness, health, and well-being. If you'd like to be notified of new podcast releases, be sure to hit the subscribe button or the follow button. And if you take some genuine value from this podcast, please be sure to give us the thumbs up or leave us a review. There's no money behind these podcasts. They're totally free. So we rely on likes, shares, comments, reviews, and subscribes to grow the audience. So any interaction is greatly appreciated. Done.
Yes.
That is done. We are
We've
now
got 5 minutes left of the podcast now.
I know it's a big one, but it needs to be said. People need to be aware. So again, Kathy, thank you very much. Welcome to the Rokman podcast.
Oh,
For people who don't know,
mm-hmm.
if you could do it a little pitch, 1 minute or less,
Oh,
who is Kathy Stringer?
So, God, you know what? I hate saying things like I'm a runner or I'm a cyclist because to me it's still just a hobby, but I have to get used to saying it. So I am a duathlete and that involves running and cycling. I started off as a runner, so from the age of 9 I joined a running club and I competed in running all the way up until university. And then shortly after university, I got my first road bike. That's when I took up cycling. So that was about 4 or 5 years ago now. And then I decided to combine the two. And ever since, I've been competing in lots of duathlons. And this year, I actually tried my first triathlon as well. So I think technically I can say I'm a triathlete too. I think if you've done one, you can kind of say you've got that title. But yeah, so that is me in a nutshell, really, in terms of my like fitness achievements and things.
Yeah, so you're now a triple threat, as they call it, running,
Yeah.
cycling, and swimming.
I wouldn't say I'm a threat in swimming yet. Hopefully will be one day, but yeah, swimming is not a threat if you're in the pool next to me.
So for people that don't know, what I know it's duathlons or duathletes, it's obviously running and cycling, as you've said, but how would like a duathlon race work? What does it look like?
So very similar. I think most people would know the format of a triathlon, and a duathlon is very similar, but you don't have the swimming, you have an extra run. So you do a longer run. So the sprint distance is 5K, standard distance is 10K. Then you transition onto your bike and sprint is about 20K, I believe. Standard distance is 40K. And then the final run, so you do another transition into a final run. And for sprint, it's 2.5K. For the standard, it's 5. So I tend to do the standard distance. So I do a 10K run, a 40K bike, a 5K run. if you were to do a sprint distance, it's a 5K run, 20K bike, 2.5K run. So it's half the amount on the second run than first, which is very nice.
And what kind of
By the time you get to that second run, you're very pleased you've not got to do the 2 laps in just one.
yeah, I can imagine. And what kind of surfaces are you on? Are these trails, or is this road and track?
I'd say the majority in the UK tend to be tracks. A lot of the competitions I do are closed road, so they're actually around, like race circuits where like cars and motorbikes would be. So you literally will run around the circuit, jump on your bike, and you pretty much bike what you've just ran. I have done a couple where they've been on open roads, so we've actually ended up kind of running. You might be on a trail, but I'd say the majority of the time you'll be on some sort of hard surface. The only one duathlon I've done this year, which was a trail, was the Snowman Duathlon in Wales, and it was in Snowdonia, hence the name Snowman. And I actually went over on my ankle, so I've not done a trail duathlon since. I'm sticking to the hard surfaces.
Yeah, and that wasn't too long ago. I remember the post. It was you found it particularly gutting, right?
Oh yeah, it was really hard actually, because at the time I was almost at my peak. I was really really fit, felt great, was doing really well on my running, and I was kind of coming into transition as first female, and I'd navigated down about 800 meters of just like a sheer drop of a mountain, over all the rocks, all the boulders. Got down, and it was as I hit the carpet. Basically, there were triathletes competing on the same day, and so where they came out, they'd carpeted the track, and the carpet was covering up all of the rocks, and you couldn't see what was underneath. So I put my foot down, thinking it'd just be solid underneath, and actually I went over on a rock, and like really sort of twisted my ankle really badly. Had to have it wrapped up, and that was only a few months ago, and I knew straight away I thought this is going to affect my training for the Worlds, and that's why I was so gutted, because I was just I was doing really well at that point, and that set me back a good month. I couldn't run on my foot for a good month, so it all was in the gym, yoga and cycling. I was just really pleased that I had those to fall back on. So yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
that's actually when I took up the triathlon, because I was able to swim.
mhm.
It was obviously no impact, so that's actually how I got into the triathlon in the end.
Oh, so every cloud and all that.
The cloud, yeah.
Silver lining. So
Yeah.
you touched on it there, the Worlds, obviously. So
Oh yeah.
at the start, you introduced it and said, yeah, I don't really think myself as a duathlete. It's more of a hobby. But you say it's a hobby, but tell us, Kathy, at what level are you at in this hobby?
So at the moment, this year I competed for Team GB in the age group World Triathlon Championships. So I was in the age group 25 to 29. I'll let you all believe that I'm at the lower end of that age group. And yeah, shall I spoiler alert or no?
Yeah, no, come on,
Yeah.
tell the guys. They're gagging to know.
Okay, spoiler alert. I came second, but I didn't just come second in my age group. I actually came second overall, which never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd ever go to the World Championships and come second overall. And unfortunately, the girl who beat me was in my age group. So, because the competitions are all done on age group. So even if 10 people had beaten me, if they weren't in my age group, I'd still have got the gold medal. And that's kind of how age group competitions work. And so it was so unfortunate she was in my age group. If she'd have been like a year older, she'd have been in the age group up. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so silver medal, which I've actually got here.
Ooh,
Yeah, bring it on. Bling,
bit
bling.
of bling.
And actually, what's great is only this bit of the medal is silver. So like just that little bit there. So when we were having our pictures with the medal ceremony was done at night, and you couldn't tell on the pictures who had gold, who had bronze, and who had silver, because they all just looked blue. So yeah, it's quite nice.
As long as you're in the center, then you're going to look like you're
Exactly.
the first, musty way in. Like, right? Are you going to put it on? Are you going to wear it for the rest of the podcast? Yeah, second in the world, man.
Oh, I love that.
Second in the world at duathlon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Unbelievable. Like I just never ever thought that I'd sort of even put GB kit on And yeah, to get a silver medal is just unbelievable, to be honest.
It is.
I still can't believe it, and the medal is quite heavy, so it's nice to wear.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. So, like, how long of a journey was this? Because this was the second time you competed at the Worlds. If you want to
Yeah.
sort of tell us, how did you do at that point, and then how long was it? Because we had a massive pandemic in the middle of it, didn't we? So, how did
Mm.
that affect things and like delay time?
Yeah, so the last time I competed in the world was in 2019. That was in Pontevedra, and I went there with zero expectations. I'd qualified for GB, so I knew obviously I was at a pretty good standard, but I went and just never thought I'd get to this level. Just go out there, enjoy yourself. And I came away with a bronze that time. And I was self-coached at that point. So it was after that that I thought, do you know what, if I really put more effort into this and I invested in a coach, Paul Ryman, just give him a little plug. Then I thought, I can try and do better. And I did really want the gold medal this time, but unfortunately it wasn't quite meant to be. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But yeah, so that was a couple of years ago. And before that, I'd say it took me around 2 to 3 years to get to that point. So I should have got the dates ready. I think my first triathlon was in 2016. So actually, so it must have been 3 years to get to the world and then another two to get to this one. So yeah, probably a 5 year journey. But my biking, I really wasn't very good on the bike. I had an accident when I was a kid and I went over on the handlebars and actually had to have 7 stitches in my chin down here. And after that, I was like, I'm never ever going to get on a road bike. I couldn't deal with the drop handlebars. The thought of clipping in was like the most terrifying thing. And yeah, just a bit of practice, and I was almost hooked immediately. Absolutely loved the freedom of getting out on my bike. And then yeah, I went to do my first duathlon, won my age group at the first event, and obviously I'm super competitive. So if I win something, I'm like, right, well, I'm going to go and try and win the world. And so yeah, just took it a lot more seriously. Just actually started taking my training really seriously. Up until that point, as I said, I'd only ever taken my running seriously. Biking was always just like a commute or a bit of fun on the weekends. And at that point, like, I got a turbo trainer, so I could train indoors during the winter, and carry on throughout those months. And yeah, it all started to pay off. And then at the beginning of 2020 was when I got my coach, and obviously then the pandemic came shortly afterwards. And actually, I'd say it sort of helped me in some ways, because as an age group athlete, you work full time alongside your full time training, and to balance the two plus life and everything else, is hard. And during the pandemic, obviously your social life was taken away from you, and all of a sudden it was just you work and you train. I also got put on furlough, so it just opened up. My days, were just free to go off and do my training. So yeah, I think that's really, really helped me in the last couple of years.
Furlough life. COVID helped. It was a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise.
I know. I feel awful for saying it, because I know people had really hard lockdowns. But for me, my exercise, my sports, my training, it was my get out. Like, you were allowed to go for bike rides, you were allowed to go for runs. And so that was the time of day where it was like, I'm free. I can get out and do what I want. It was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it paid off for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole COVID thing, I felt that as well. It was fantastic. Like, it's the only opportunity I think most people are ever going to go in there, get in their lives. Of yeah, I mean, yes, it was a bad circumstance, but like, to make the most of it, you've got a chance to really work on you. You've got a block period, a good couple of months. I think most people are off work. Myself was off work for a while, and you could either sit there and worry and not use the time, let time pass and realize, what have I done with it? Or you could actually get your head down and make an impact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely. And I've spoken to so many people who have all said, they're like, yeah, God, if I could just have a month every year of lockdown life, they're like, I think I'd just be a happier person, because you can just get so much done. And like you say, just concentrate on you and all the things that you put off, and you say, oh, I haven't got time for that, I can't do that. All of a sudden you've got the time to do it, and you really feel like this sense of achievement. So Yeah, it's funny, like a lot of people, I think when they reflect back, they think, God, yeah, that time, actually at the time it was like, oh, this has never happened, this is scary, what's going on, we're worried, you know, and it was worrying. But then actually when you reflect back and everything's sort of okay now, you think, well, not okay, but getting better, you just think, yeah, God, what a cool time to just do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the other thing I think people need to appreciate about you is that, as you said, you're an age group athlete, which
Mm,
means that you do have a full-time job.
yeah.
You're not. I hope people don't assume that you're some sort of semi-pro or professional athlete. Well, I hope they do. I hope they do assume it. But like, I think people need to understand that you are fitting this in around a pretty full life schedule already, and you've got to
Yeah.
find the time. And you're not just training at amateur level. You're training at the world's top level. So it demands so much more of you in time, money, and training. That
Yeah.
how do you fit it in? Like, give us an example. Like, how do you fit in world class training around an already full life? What's a day in the life of Kathy to fit this in?
Um, I mean, it's 7:35 right now as we're recording this podcast, and I haven't eaten my lunch yet. That's how.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is mad. It is mad. But I mean, I almost don't like there's age group athletes out there who are parents as well. So they even have that on top of me. And I cannot believe that it's even physically capable, to be quite honest with you. I mean, yeah, I really don't know how they fit it in. But I guess from my perspective, um, most of the time I'd be training twice a day. So it's obviously normally a fairly early morning, and get up, do your training, and I'll have to. I mean, this year it has been slightly different for me because this year I've been working from home, and so I've actually had the luxury of not having to get up quite as early as I used to because actually there's no commute involved. So, but yeah, up early for training, straight into work. Sometimes if I couldn't make that early morning, or you know, if I thought, right, actually today I've just got to do a half an hour run, I would prefer to fit it in my lunch break and like get that extra rest and the extra sleep. So actually sometimes, some days I'd like do a bit of work for a few hours and then I'd go out for a run at lunch. Um, and then continue working. And then in the evening, I have to do it straight away. I can't finish work and say, right, in an hour's time, I'll go and do my training. It's like, I've got to be out the door or put my shoes on at, 5:30, 6 o'clock, get my training done, eat, uh, and then sleep pretty much. And if I wanted to see my friends, they'd have to sort of join in my schedule. So they'd have to come to yoga with me or they'd have to come to the gym with me. And that's kind of how I've managed to fit it in this year. Managed to get like a little group together now to go to yoga because that was the only time my mates could see me. And then also I have to treat my training as social time sometimes. So I've got a really good friend, Pete, who comes out cycling with me. And on a Saturday morning, him and I'll be out for like 4 or 5 hours with a cafe stop. And that to me has become almost social time. It's something I really enjoy. And I think that's one thing, you have to enjoy it because it does take over your life. So if you're not enjoying it and you haven't got those friends and that support to come along with you, then you'll soon fall out of love and soon start, missing training sessions, and then it just snowballs. But it's I have to say, like, although I'm at this level and I know I'm a Rokman ambassador and, all about the mental resilience and pushing through and everything, but I've been through some low points this year, really, really low points. And I have had to honestly drag myself out of bed. It has been so, so difficult. And even coming up to the World Championships, so many of my friends, like a month before, be like, oh my God, I bet you can't wait. Your motivation must be through the roof. You must be this. And I was like, I just want this to all be over. I was like, I cannot wait for race day. Because when you're sort of like 3 weeks out, no amount of training is going to make a difference. Obviously, it'll keep you going, and obviously you can't just stop training. But you're not going to change your PB by 10 seconds at that point. It's all the grafting you've done for the 8 months beforehand. And so that month before, you're just like, oh God, I've got to train twice a day, every day, just to like get to this point. And I started hating it. And I was having conversations with my friends and I was like, I want this to be over. I've got no motivation. And it was so weird because it was like, this is the world champs. It's something you've been waiting for 2 years. And it's, like, it's coming right up. And I was like, oh no. And it was only till like the week before that I actually got excited and was like, yeah, I'm ready for this. And sorry, should I keep going or do you want to ask?
Yeah, no, this is great. You're ripping through all my bullet points anyway, so I'll just sit back and listen. But
Sorry.
Please continue.
Like, as I'm saying it kind of rolls into my next point. Yeah, like when I got there, that was when I was just really, really excited. And of every race I've ever done, I get so nervous. And the morning of, even if it's just a park run, I'll always get really nervous. And the morning of, I struggle to eat, I'll struggle to drink and have to like really force feed myself. And I struggled to sleep sometimes as well. The night before the World Champs, I went straight to sleep. There wasn't like, nothing kept me up. I woke up in the morning and I took porridge pots with me, just because that's what my stomach's used to. And, it's all those marginal gains, that kind of thing, like eating what you know. So I'd taken these porridge pots and I was like, oh God, I'm going to be lucky if I can get through half of one of them. I ate 2. And I know that sounds like ridiculous, but to me, to eat 2 porridge pots on the morning of the World Champs was like bonkers. I had a banana, I was drinking, I was like, I was just ready. It was like, I wasn't even nervous because I was like, I've waited for this day for so long. And I'd had the best night's sleep, I'd eaten really well. I was like, oh, this couldn't, yeah. I felt so happy because I was like, this is how I wanted my prep to go. It's how you dream of your prep to be. And yeah, it all just played out just how I wanted it to. So yeah, that was really good. But
it seems like you were really relaxed then going into it, like, and that obviously helped. That really did help. You've come away with a silver.
Yeah, I was really relaxed, and I think it helped the day before we went to I had to go and register. My parents were with me, and we walked to kind of where the start line was. And on that day, the sprint distance athletes had been, and the elite athletes were going, and all the sprint athletes were just drinking. They'd all finished their race and they were like just celebrating, having lots of drinks. It was a beautiful day, so we're all sat out in the sunshine. And I went up to this group and I said, "Oh, where do I register?" And they were just amazing. And they just instantly like, "Oh my God, you're racing tomorrow. Sit down, rest your legs, get some water in you. Who's here with you?" And I was like, "Oh, my mum and dad are here. Like, get them a beer." So they like sat my parents down and we had the best day with these guys. And they injected so much enthusiasm in me. And they were like, one of the guys had a vuvuzela and he was like, "I'm going to be out there cheering for you tomorrow. I'm going to be at the top of the hill and I'm going to be blowing my vuvuzela at you." And it was just, honestly, the atmosphere was so great. And I was like, oh, just things like that. You just think, I cannot wait for tomorrow. And the next day came around and all these people that I'd met the day before were suddenly my biggest fans. And when I was running, it was like all these people were shouting my name. And then I heard the vuvuzela, and I actually, when I saw him and I ran past him, I started laughing because I was like, "You did say you were going to do that, to be fair." So yeah, and all that helps you to relax. It's just like thinking, "Oh, I've got such good support here," and yeah, it was just great. And then I went home from that, had a really good dinner, and then woke up and felt good, had my breakfast. It was just, like I said, I just felt ready. It was like, this is what I've been waiting for. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the positive vibes, like they really make a difference. Like they can really pick you up, and it's infectious, isn't it? You can't help but be happy when you're around happy people, and when you're positive, you're going to perform so much better than when you're negative and down, demotivated. So like it was almost like the perfect storm for you to perform on that day. I'm glad it happened. Like I'm hearing you talk about it, it's like it's obviously really had a good impact on you.
Yeah, definitely. And I've vlogged my trip, which I'm currently editing and I'm hoping to bring out very soon. And like I do pieces to camera to my GoPro and stuff, and you'll hear all my thoughts on the lead up of those few days before I go into it. But yeah, I was just like, I feel great. It was like I'm just ready. Yeah.
I mean, it is a stark contrast because like obviously you've been an athlete with Rokman for over a year now, maybe even almost 2 years. Like that time has really flown, I think.
Yeah, it has.
Isn't it not? Yeah. So we have been in somewhat sort of regular conversation, and like I'm fully aware of how tough it was for you. during these months. And it was almost like a lot of the time you were at your saturation point with it all. Like you couldn't fit anything more into your life. And then hiccups would happen along the way. Like I think if you weren't at your saturation point, you might have been able to handle hiccups and obstacles better. But I saw how they affected you mentally. And like, this is what I want people to appreciate. This is what I'm trying to get at. Like when you're a top world athlete, it's not all, rainbows and roses, as they say. Like and it was a long trip to these worlds because of the delaying by a year. It was a 2-year real journey to this world, which did not help. I think you had to drag out this because you trained for the worlds last year, but then they postponed. They postponed sort of last minute, so you had to train for it twice, and it dragged it out for so long. What keeps you pushing through these moments? Like how do you stay motivated? How do you get out for a run? How do you drag yourself out of bed? What is that?
I don't want this to sound really cliche, but it does come down to discipline. I think motivation can only get you so far. There's a saying, isn't there? It's like motivation can only get you so far, and then it's discipline, or discipline's what matters, something like that. And that really, I think it gets to the point where it's not a case of whether you want to, you've got to, and you've got to do it for yourself. No one's going to come and get you out of bed. No one's going to drag you, but you've got to think like, I have to do this and I have to do it for myself. And that when you've done it, like so often. So one thing that I often said to myself was, so my coach always puts my sessions in, and I'd wake up and I'd like looking on Training Peaks and I'm like, oh my God, it's raining. I really don't want to do this. And then like the start of it would be like 10-minute warm up, 5-minute drills, or 10-minute drills. And I'd be like, right, okay, just go and do the warm up. Just get out of bed, run to Marbury Park, which is, a couple of miles up the road. It's dead easy. Like it's nice and wooded, there's lots of woodland. You'll enjoy it. Get there, do your drills. If you're not feeling it, come home. Obviously, you get to Marbury Park, you're already in the zone then, your trainers are on, you've got fresh air's hit your brain and your lungs, and you're like, okay, do your drills. And all of a sudden you think, well, I've just done 20 minutes and I'm here and I'm warmed up, so I've only got a 20-minute interval session and then I'm back home. And I think that can really help you sometimes, like just break it down rather than thinking, oh God, I've got an hour's session to do. Think actually that's 10 to 15 minutes of warm up, which is just jogging basically. Then you do your drills. Then before you know it, that's half of it done. It's literally half of what you've got to do done. And then you get the rest of it out the way, put a good podcast on, put some good music on, and before you know it, you'll be cooling down. And you get back home, you think, oh yeah, I'm done. And I've showed up. And it's, I think that's probably one of the biggest things I had to do, is just say like, just do your warm up. And then you do your warm up and you're not going to back out at that point. It's very rare that you'll back out at that point. So I think that's like a tool that I'd say I can use. But I think other than that, if motivation's really low, it is discipline. It's not I want to or I don't want to. It's I can and I will.
Yeah, I think once you make it non-negotiable for yourself, it doesn't matter what gets in the way. You've got to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like, having a coach helps me a lot, because I think I thrive off of having that accountability. It's like knowing that somebody's checking up on me. And sometimes I forget to wear my watch in the gym or things, and so it wouldn't upload to Training Peaks. And he'd, message me going, what did you do? Have you been to the gym? And I'm like, oh yeah. And it's just this little reminder that somebody is keeping watch. And I'm a people pleaser and I don't like to disappoint. So I would, that sort of thing really helps me. And I'd say if that's a personality trait of yours, I'd 100% recommend, investing in a coach and having that person to just check in on you and make sure you're doing it. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard. It's really, I'd love to give you this like real insight into like what goes on, but it's different things. Like, every time I woke up, it's not, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I see like a bit of a sunbeam coming through the curtain. I'm like, oh, the day is waiting for me, get out. And I can't wait. I'm like, oh my God.
Like some sort of Disney film. Like.
Yeah. Honestly, I like jump out of bed, like put some music on. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait for this. And if anyone follows me on stories, I'll be like putting 75 million photos up of my run because I'm just so amazed that I've seen this tree look a certain way or whatever. And then other days I am like, I don't care if nobody comes in my room and I don't see the sunlight today, like leave me alone. But it's those days that you just got to drag yourself out and make it non-negotiable.
That's where the bloody mental resilience comes in. It's being strong enough to make yourself do it no matter what, even if you don't want to do it. I mean, one of the biggest what would you call it, not demotivators, reasons why people say excuses, that's the word I'm looking for. One of the biggest excuses people use is that they've got no time. And I think when you make it non-negotiable to yourself, you always find the time.
Yeah.
And I tell you what's funny, actually.
Definitely.
So I've obviously in the last 2.5 years, I've become a father. I've now got 2 bloody kids. Like, it fills up your day so much. And like before kids, I didn't think I had time. Yeah. Now I've got 2 kids. I've got no time whatsoever. But you find it because I've said to myself, right, I have to train. You find the time. You'll be amazed. I'm actually more productive now because the less time I have, it's made me more productive because I've really got to use the time that I've got.
Yeah, definitely. And, that thing, isn't it? Like if you're at work and you've got nothing to do, sending one email feels like loads of effort. And then on a day where you've got millions of stuff to do, it's like you just get through it. And you just find a way. And it's probably the same with you with Rokman as well, right? Because you only started Rokman a couple of years ago. And I bet if somebody had said to you, in 2 years' time, you're going to have 2 kids and be running your own company, you'd be like, no chance. When am I going to do that? And here you are absolutely smashing it. So, yeah.
And a full-time job.
That's what I mean. Like, you had your job and your social life.
Yeah.
And if somebody had said to you, you're like adding 2 kids and another business, you'd be like, no chance. And you can do it.
It's been really tough. It is
that. It's you've got to want to do it and you've got to enjoy it. And, like I remember years ago, before I got into cycling, the person who introduced me to cycling said, oh, if you want to be good at cycling, you have to go out for like 4 hours every weekend. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And I was like, God, I struggled to fit in a long run, which is, an hour and a half. And now, without fail, pretty much every weekend this year, I've found, I don't usually come home till about 2 p.m. because we have like an hour's cafe stop in between as well. But I love it. It's become part of my lifestyle and I love it. And so now if a friend says, are you free on Saturday? Yes, but after 1 p.m. because I know I'm going to have that cycle ride in that morning. So it's like all of a sudden you find the time and you, rather than brunching at 11 a.m., you brunch at 1 p.m. You just find a way to fit it in.
Yeah. I was wondering, so how did you get into this, Kathy? You said at the beginning that you've been running since 9 years old.
Yeah.
So what was the reason you got into it? Why have you continued at it? Like sort of, what's kept you interested? And why? What did you get from it?
I'd say the thing that kept me in it when I was a teenager was my friends and the social side of running. I joined an athletics club when I was 9. When I first joined, it was just games. So you just went and played games basically, which obviously is at that age is great. And then when I was sort of 13, between the ages of say 13 to 17, again took it quite seriously and we're competing. And I trained 4 to 5 times a week. I only had a Monday and a Friday off. And obviously I had like school and stuff in between. And my running friends became my family, like my second family basically, because you'd spend a Saturday, most Saturdays you'd be at a race with them. So you're there all day. We'd quite often organise some sort of sleepover after that. So we'd all have like a party and a sleepover and we'd go straight from that to our training on a Sunday morning. And before, you've spent the whole weekend with these friends. And a lot of my friends from like school and college will say, we barely saw her. I never went to one of the college socials. I never went out. When I turned 17, no, it's 18, isn't it? You're allowed to go out. When I turned 18, the night of my 18th birthday, so the next day, I had the Cheshire Championships and I was running in the 800 meters, and everyone was like, you've got to go out, it's your 18th. So I went out, but I didn't drink, got home relatively, like midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. And I just drank Red Bull because, I wanted to run well the next day. And that's kind of like my mentality at that age. I was like, I've got years and years and years of my life to go out and drink and do all that kind of stuff, but I will never have this opportunity in the Cheshire Champs at this age ever again. So take this opportunity. And yeah, so I'd say my friends kept me there, and then we used to do quite well. We were quite successful as a team. We got a silver medal in the national cross country championships, I think when I was 15, and that's always been like my favourite medal because it had an England flag on it, and it was chuffed. And when I was that age, I said to myself, "You'll run for your country one day." I get so inspired by the Olympics and people who get to do that sort of thing. I said to myself, "You will do it." And I just never got there. I was never fast enough. I don't know what it was, whether it's like comes down to natural talent or maybe I needed to change my diet or whatever it might be. I don't know. I just never was fast enough. And then I went to university, and I'd say university, other distractions came into play. That's when the drinking came in and going out and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was part of the athletics club. I became the social sec for the athletics club. So I was the bad influence on all the runners there. And when I came out of university, that was when you think, oh God, like I'm getting old, and, going for a run then, you'd ache for a week afterwards. I was like, I never want to feel like this. I always want to feel like I did when I was 16 and I was really fit and could do whatever I wanted to do, and it was never a big deal. And so I started running again, and then it was shortly after that the bike came in, and then sort of duathlon has sort of been my 22, 23 all the way up until where I am now. So I mean, I guess in short to your question, I would say it's been friends and people that have kept me there. But I am also uber competitive, so.
Yeah, I know.
If my numbers on my peak, if I remember doing a park run and like my 5K time was like 23 minutes or something, which I know to a lot, like 23 minutes would be a PB to people, but to me at that point it was like,
to me, Kathy, that would be a PB.
To me it was like, oh my God, my numbers have slipped. What is this? To be like so far off like what you used to run, and now I've got all the way back down to the numbers where I was running when I was at my peak when I was sort of 16.
Really?
Yeah, almost. I am almost there. I reckon I can get a lifetime 10K PB this year. So
you're gonna go for it?
Yeah.
Good. You said you're competitive, and I know that to be true. Absolutely. On a couple of our shoots, when we do some impromptu challenges with the boys, you are always trying to prove yourself and beat the boys at whatever it is.
Max at press ups.
No one can beat Max at press ups. What did they say? Max doesn't do push ups. Was it? Max pushes the world down. He doesn't. I butchered that. How important is it to because I know this is you grew up with 3 brothers, right?
Yeah.
How important
older brothers as well.
Yeah, older brothers. How important is it to prove yourself and beat the men?
Oh, to me, massive. Yeah, like my whole life growing up, I was the youngest and I was the only girl. So my dad used to film us when we were kids, and there's footage of me where all my brothers do something like on a monkey bars, and I'm like moaning and whining, saying like, put me up there. My mum and dad will lift me up, and I'm doing exactly what my brothers have just done, and they're 4 years older than me. But it was like growing up with these like sort of young lads that could do all this stuff, and they were really sporty as well. They used to kick footballs around, rugby, whatever it might be. They were into sport as well, and so I guess I grew up being inspired by them and seeing what they could do, and I'd always try and be the same. And I think all kids are like that. I'm sure you'll find it with your two. Like the youngest will copy the oldest, and so I guess all my life growing up, I was copying what they could do, and then it got to an age where you're like, the comments start coming in like, oh, you're the girl, so you can go and goal, or you're the girl, you're not going to. And so obviously that's just in my head. It's like, no, I'll get you back. And guess what? I'm faster than all my brothers now. So I don't think any of them would even attempt to beat me on a bike. So yeah, feels good.
So it's fun.
Maybe all of this has just been to prove that point, that I'm faster than my brothers.
It could well be. Have you spoken to a psychologist? They'll probably that'll be their conclusion, I think. Like,
yeah, quite possibly. Maybe that's a bit of a revolution I've just come up with there.
I'm interested in on your thoughts on women's sport as well. Obviously, being a female and a top world class athlete in women's sport, you are. We can say that now. Like, definitely, well, you were last time when you had bronze. Like, you're silver now as well, so even better. There's only one woman out there that can beat you. Tell me her name, Kathy. I'll find her. I'll sort her out. But I was wondering, sort of how have you seen women's fitness or fitness and sport industry or health and industries? How have you seen it change over the years? Because you've been in it since year 9 and at age 9, and from my own perspective, when I was, say, 9 years old, women's sport wasn't even really a thing. If it was, but I remember in PE classes or in our schools, there would only be like 2 or 3 girls ever in like the athletics team or something like that. What's your opinions on it, and how have you seen it change?
So first of all, even when I was 9 and still now, there is a huge skew in the number of women versus men in, I'd say, pretty much all sports clubs. Obviously with the exceptions of a few, which are mainly female dominated, like gymnastics and things. But I mean, any cycling club I've ever turned up to, I'm often the only woman there. And if I'm not the only one, there'll only be 1 or 2 others. And they'll always say like, oh, I'll go in the slow group. They put themselves down straight away. It's like they couldn't possibly keep up with the men. And yeah, I mean, I'd say that's like across everyone I speak to, it's the same. Racing. So just to give a little background, so at the World Championships, like I said, it's done in your age groups. So you're called up in your age group to start the race. So for the men, they had to go off. I think they did it in 2 age group batches. So for example, they would do the 20 to 29. So actually the age groups would be 20 to 24, 25 to 29, but they set them off at the race 20 to 29, and they'd be like rows, you'd have the start line, and then there'd be like rows of men waiting, like 9 rows deep of guys. Then they'd have the next 2 age groups, and even all the way up until the ages of 89, you still had like 5 rows deep of men. I mean, it was unbelievable how many were there. For the women, we all went off as one.
Yeah, there was
every woman competing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was 2, but we were only like 3-4 rows deep, and it was like, and when I was warming up, I was like, have I got the time wrong? Because there were just men everywhere warming up, drills, drinking, like running to the loo, running about, whatever. I hadn't seen that many women, and I was like, have I mistimed my warm up? Like, I was kind of like doubting myself. And then as it got closer and closer and the men's races started going off, and you kind of start getting smaller numbers, I was like, oh no, this is just how few there are here of women versus men. And I think it's a real shame. And I'm not really sure why it is. But I would say it's changing. I think when I was growing up, I grew up sort of, sports for women was always about how you looked. It was all about the aesthetics. So you had the woman on the Special K adverts who like ate the cereal and wore the red swimming costume and stuff. And it was all about like, if you work out and you do this, then you're going to look like this person. I think now mindsets are starting to shift, and it's about what your body can do. So it's not about how you look or anything like that. It's what you can do with it, and how it makes you feel for your mindset and for your mental health. And I think that's really good. And I think a lot of women are starting to realize that if you stop caring about what that run is going to do for your bum, or going to do for your legs, whether your dumbbell's going to do your arms, and you just start enjoying it, and you make friends, and you set a schedule for yourself, and you do it for your head, you do it for stress relief, and you do it for every other reason but losing weight, you're going to lose weight. It's like, I remember, even for me at times, I'm like, when I got into this, I was like, oh, you know, I want to lose a bit of weight, or I want to get that bit of weight off my legs here, and I want to get biceps, whatever it might be. And it's funny, the second I was like, I want a gold medal and I want to win the world champs and see how far I can get in duathlon, all of a sudden you start doing the core work, the yoga and everything else, not because you're doing it to look good, just because you're doing it for your training. And it all, before I know it, like I've started very little, nothing like Max's. I'm starting to get some little biceps and like, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference for women in the fitness industry and for women in sport now. I also think I think people are starting to sit up and notice that women can achieve things just as well as men did. You know, with Emma, I'm so bad with her name, Emma Raducanu in the tennis this year. Like what she achieved just blew everyone's socks off, and she had like millions and millions of viewers. And all of a sudden it was like, yeah, a woman can attract audiences as big as men. You just have to give them the right screen time. You have to put them on at the prime time TV, you know, times. And they've never done that. And then like next year we've got the first female Tour de France, and it's like, how have we never had this? Why was this this like societal impression that women couldn't cycle as far as men, or it wasn't possible. They might not do it in the same times as men. I'm not saying that a woman's going to go and beat the men's record for the Tour de France. I don't think that's possible. It's not physically possible. But at least give us a chance to go out and do the same course and prove that we can compete alongside them at the same event and put it on TV at the time when people can watch it. And the second you start doing that, you'll see the snowball effect. We'll start hitting the headlines. We'll start achieving records. And then people take more interest in it. You know, I think that is starting to shift. It's still not there. You know, we've still got a long way to go, but it's definitely shifting. And I think it's really great. I think, yeah, women's sport is starting to hit headlines how men's sport did.
I think it's obviously if you do rewind, say 20 years ago, they just weren't the numbers. And I think it has been a long journey of building those numbers up to the point where it's like, well, we've got the numbers now. Feature us, like let us get involved. But for me, and I think this is for everyone actually, I'm going to speak on behalf of everyone here. It's not necessarily about the skill level or the fitness level. It's the story behind it. It's the why. And I think no greater sport portrays this correctly other than the UFC. I don't know if you've seen it before, but they were one of the first sporting institutions to headline females at their fight nights, their sport, any sort of sporting event. They were one of the biggest and first people to do women. And all right, you know, they're not going to be as strong as the men, right? They're not going to be, but you've got two evenly matched females with fantastic backstories behind each athlete. You want to watch it. You want to watch that fight. And I think when you've got two women, you said the Tour de France, going at it with, you know, 1 kilometer to go and they're neck and neck, it doesn't matter who the bloody hell they are. They could be green aliens for all you matter. You know, it doesn't matter who or what they are. It's the competitive nature, it's the sport, it's the story, it's the excitement that's going to get you interested. So it doesn't matter whether you I was going to be rude, but it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. I'll stick it at that.
And do you know what the other what I find amazing is like there are Olympians out there, and there are like, you know, like top like world class legendary athletes that are mums. I'm like, how? And like, don't get me wrong, I know there's loads of dads, but the mums have actually had to give birth. They've had to like give up 9 months of their life growing a child inside of their body, and then sort of having to bounce back from that and get back to being this seriously intense athlete. And they say, don't they, that like giving birth is one of the most traumatic things your body can go through. So no wonder they're top class athletes, because I don't think they'll be able to feel pain anymore. Like it's just, but I mean, it's crazy. And in fact, one of my friends actually made elite status this year, and she was at the World Duathlon Championships competing as an elite athlete, and she had 2 girls there watching her, and it was unbelievable. And she was so emotional afterwards, and yeah, I think in the commentary they talked about how she was a mum as well. And yeah, I just find it unbelievable. I just think, how has women's sports not been given that sort of coverage? And as you say, the stories, because it's like they've got kids behind them and stuff. I mean, it's amazing.
It is incredible. I mean, obviously,
I'm glad it's shifting. I'm glad it's starting to change.
I think it will be sort of like an exponential growth. It's going to snowball, isn't it? Because the more women you have in sport being featured, then the more women are going to do sport. And then the more women you have doing sport, the more women will be featured doing sport. So it will just grow and grow and grow. Especially with,
I think, sorry, carry on.
I'll just finish, especially with the being a father, recently having the seeing how the effect that having children's had on my wife. It's not just the birth, obviously, it's hormones, man. They go wild. So like, if you are an athlete and you've got this aim of, I want to be fit and trim and I want to get the best times, your body's going to go, no. We're going to really dump a load of hormones in your body now because you're growing a child. So you can't fight that. No. So yeah, utmost respect to the women that do it after giving birth and stuff like that, because it's a real battle. It's not like you're fighting an injury. It's everywhere. It's you. It's everything.
And I think for like some of the men that are at the top of their sports, well, it's like, well, yeah, great. You've never had to. You've been able to just fully always concentrate on it, and that's been your full-time job. But then you look at the women alongside them, and it's like, oh, they had a kid that year and then came back and won the world champs, and then they had another child, and like they've had to do this in between their sporting career and have to balance probably sponsorship and getting the money in and all of that. And I just think, like some of the journeys the women have to take to get to just the level that the men do, it's actually a lot harder. And I think people should take a lot more sort of inspiration and sort of admiration for that.
And they don't use it as an excuse.
No.
You just got to get on with it.
Yeah. And no offense to men out there, but I feel like men would really milk it if it was the other way around.
Yeah, probably. It's sort of like the man flu paradox, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But so Kathy, like you read the stats recently of the survey that came out for Rokman, and you could see there that I think we had 17 or 18% female participation. As a female, speaking on behalf of all females now, Kathy, you're representing the gender. How do we get more women? And this is everyday women now. I'm not thinking of athletes. This is everyday women. How do we get more women to push their limits in a Rokman capacity? So not necessarily play sport, but like I'm talking about pushing their limits to toughen their minds, improve their health, improve their fitness, improve their well-being, improve their resilience. How do we, because obviously Rokman is a very masculine brand. Now this isn't exclusively to males at all. Masculine just means it embodies a bunch of characteristics. It doesn't mean male or female. It's sort of like it's driven, it's aggressive, it goes forward. How do we make it appeal to more women? How do we get more women doing Rokman challenges? I
mean, it's not going to happen overnight. I think it's going to have to be a gradual thing. It's really tough. I feel like women need to know. I think basically what I'm trying to say, I think women more than men have low self-confidence and almost don't have the belief that they can do it before they've even tried. Whereas I think more men, and I'm just speaking on experience really, even probably between me and my brothers, I think my brothers and guys have more confidence and I'll go, yeah, I can do that. Or like they've kind of got this like innate sense that like they're going to be better than everyone else. Whereas I think women go into things with like maybe more of a realistic point of view sometimes, but just of, oh God, will I be able to do it? And like I said, they'll almost put themselves down. It's kind of what I mentioned earlier about you go to a cycling club and straight away the women are like, oh no, I might not be able to. You just think, why don't you think you can cycle as good as him? You don't even know him. And I think with stuff like the Rokman challenges, it's like, it can be like 4 weeks, every week you get a different challenge. And I just think women need to keep in their heads, it's not, it's not gonna, I don't know, I'd just like to like inject them with a bit more confidence of like, you can do this. And I think if they just did one and realize that they might not be top of the leaderboard, but hey, you earned your pip and you can wear that with pride, then I think going forwards they'd go, oh, actually, yeah, I can do this, and then they'd enter the next one, and just sort of like, yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but I think that's the biggest thing between men and women. I think it's that confidence of like, a woman will look at a challenge and go, oh no, I'm not sure, whereas a men will go, yeah, I can do that, and like give it a try.
Yeah, well, it's funny because of all the women that do the challenges, once they're involved with Rokman and doing it, they absolutely love it. They can see that it's a really supportive group. They can see that the challenges are not you versus other people, it's you against you. That there's multiple fitness levels. They don't have to push, they don't have to do the advanced, and the support they get off the community as well is absolutely amazing, and they love it. And that's the thing, right? So the women that do it, they're the ones smiling the most. I think. See, I've always thought that it's men like that have this deep desire to push their limits, to be someone to achieve. But it's so not true. Like, seeing them, they've got just as much, if not more, drive to prove themselves. And maybe that is it. They're really trying to prove themselves to themselves that they can do it.
I think it's tapping into that, because actually it's when you first introduced this and asked me the question, you said, oh, it's quite a masculine brand, and you went, not because it's for men, but it's driven, it's aggressive, it's this. And I was actually going to say to you, I sort of disagree that they're masculine traits. I think everyone's got those traits. I think they're human traits.
They do. That's my point.
Yeah.
It's not exclusive to males at all.
Yeah, like everyone has got those traits. But I think it's easier to tap into some of them in men than it is women. I think once you've tapped it in a woman, it's addictive. I honestly think women are, when they put their mind to something, they can really go for it. And that's why I think it's not going to happen overnight. I don't think we're going to get this influx of women going, yeah, I want to do loads of Rokman challenges. But I think if you can just get a few and they invite their mates, and I think that's really important for women as well. Like I said, with the yoga, it's like I invited one friend and then a few people see it, and then before you know it, you've got a little group if you go in, and then it becomes right, after yoga, should we go for a glass of wine? And all of a sudden, you kind of like make something out of it. And I think with Rokman, like if you get that word of mouth and one does it with another, then I think that's something else that women really like.
Have you heard of the brand This Girl Can?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, years ago I was looking into their brand, because I think they do it really well with women, is that, and what they spoke about is that women and men are different, in general populace. Now, we're not talking individuals, of course, you can have overlaps, but as a general populace, they are different, they have different aims. And for men, it's more about competition, and for women, it's more about socializing. And I think that's it. If you sort of, you make it you play on the social element and the fun, I think you're going to get more in, you're going to get more involved.
Yeah, definitely. And it's even for like local events. Like I did the Cheshire 10K very recently, and I think it was the biggest numbers I'd seen in a race all year. It was like 700 people or something, and it was just a local 10K up the road. But I'd say at that event, more than the higher level when I go to, there are so many more. It is almost a 50-50. Like you get as many men doing it as women, but the men are doing it and they're like, I want a PB. They're all, like, they're really kind of wanting that. They're wanting to like get this goal. Don't get me wrong, I think the women still have that, but you'll often see the women running with other women, or like they're in their little groups and they'll run it together, and then they get to the end and they put a medal around their necks, and it's kind of like this little group thing. Whereas I'd say you tend to see more men running on their own trying to get the time. So yeah, I like what you're saying. Obviously it's your survey and it's your data, but I probably have seen that if I really thought about it in action, with my own eyes. So yeah, it is interesting that that's kind of what they've come back with.
I tell you, because obviously there's obvious physical differences between males and females, but you know, the one sport that I'm aware of that's been proven to have an equal playing field. It doesn't matter about like, I don't know. Basically, ultra running. Ultra running is one of the only
Okay.
sports where the physical traits, males and females, it gets to a point where it doesn't matter, and it's an even playing field. And
Wow.
I don't know if you follow ultra
Interesting.
running, but you're getting more and more women actually winning the races, like coming first, not first in gender, first overall.
First overall. Oh wow. I mean, I follow a few ultra athletes who are obviously incredible, but yeah, I didn't know that there was almost no difference. You know, that it just gets to the point where
I think
it's
it's to
like
do
a level
with
playing field. That's great.
yeah, I think it's to do with something to do with size, obviously, because men are typically again on general populace going to be bigger, and then I think when you hit a certain point of endurance, when you've been going for that long, it becomes a detriment, and then that's when the women can sort of surpass them and take like. So to me, that's fantastic. That's a
Okay.
sport where we can all come together just as humans and partake.
Yeah, yeah.
It's brilliant.
And I'd also say ultra running is in your head. Like so much of it is in your mind. You could be the fastest ultra runner ever, but if you hit a bog in the first 1 mile and your trainers are soaking wet and then you get blistered, you know, and it all with you, then you're not going to be able to, and you know, you haven't got that resilience to push through, then to win, whether it's or not. And yeah, again, I think women are very mentally resilient.
Hell yeah, resilient or stubborn. Uh, did you get that? Um,
I
which
did,
brings.
yeah, sorry,
Oh,
it
good, good.
froze for a split second.
Oh, good, because I thought you were disgusted by my comment then, but the laugh came through eventually, so I'm okay. I got away with it. Which segues quite nicely onto mental resilience, Kathy. So you were saying how like it doesn't matter about it. Physicality matters up to a certain point, but if you haven't got the resilience and confidence and self-belief, it's almost like the physicality doesn't matter. I was wondering, what's your understanding of mental resilience? What is it to you?
Um, oh God, it's a lot of things, I think. Um, and like I said, this has come into play quite a bit for me over the last few weeks, especially with the world champs and stuff. Because I'd say even when, I mean, I'm gonna cheat a bit here to make the Rokman film where we actually discussed the 4 pillars of mental resilience, which is confidence. Um,
She's forgotten.
I forgot them all.
Challenge.
Confidence. I know 4 C: challenge, confidence, commitment.
Yep.
Oh
Control.
no,
Control.
control.
There we
Yeah.
go. There we are.
And I would say my 2 worst traits out of those 4, which sort of make it up, I'd say is confidence. I was saying before how we probably have lower self-belief. I certainly, even though I turned up to the world champs as like, you know, this year I'm national champion, I'm British champion. I still turned up going like, will I be first for GB? I'm not sure, like doubting myself. And you just think, you won the British champs, like you come in, like have the confidence, like step on that start line and go for it. And even going up to the start line, I was like, oh, maybe I should go in the row at the back, not the very back, but like, you know, a couple of rows back, because you know the girls at the front is probably faster. And that was just because I had no idea I was going to come second overall. So it was like, to me, that there must have been a group in front of me that would be faster. And then obviously I come second. It was like I should have been walking onto that start line and been right at the front of it. But I just didn't have that confidence. So I'd say that's one area that I struggle with. Sorry, I know this isn't really a question again. I got
Carry on.
but I'd say what I do have is like the control element, you know, control my controllables, and the commitment. Like I think those 2 I am quite good at. And what was the other one? Challenge. Oh yeah, challenge as well. challenge I wouldn't say I was the best at, because when the World Championships got postponed, somebody who's got a really strong sense of challenge would say, oh, great, I've got an extra 12 months, let's go. Whereas my thinking was like, oh, that's rubbish. I've trained all this time and now it's gone. And I think I texted my coach and I said, oh, I'm just going to take a back seat for a few months and come back to it next year. And he just wrote, that's not how a world champion would think. And it just, my mind straight away was like, he's right. It's not how a world champion would think. So, and I need people like that to kind of keep reminding me of stuff. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, talking about mental resilience when it comes to training and racing, would be you need the confidence that you can do it. And that's at no matter what level. I don't care if you're going to go and run an hour 5K in the park run. Like, you need to turn up and go, I can do this. Like, I'm going to get under 60 minutes, or, you've got to have that confidence. And also commitment, like, stick to it.
How do you build confidence, Kathy?
I think you've just got to prove to yourself that that you are capable. And again, it comes down to just breaking it down into smaller elements. So don't sign up to your first Rokman challenge, like I said, expecting to be top of the leaderboard or expecting to be able to do it. I mean, it's called a challenge for a reason. But just go into it thinking, I'm going to tackle this the best I can. Kind of, for the World Championships, the first time around, 2019, I went into it going, I have got no expectations. Like, I'm coming into this as a complete newbie, don't really know how I'm going to do, and then I got a bronze medal. And it's like, if I'd have gone into that with a bit more confidence, who knows if I could have got the silver that year? You just don't know. But yeah, I'd say even for, like you say, the people who are coming from it that may never have done any sport for a while, it's like, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect too much of yourself straight away. It'd be like asking somebody who's just learned how to do maths, to do like a really complicated, you're not going to be able to do it, but let them have a bit of practice and prove that they can do 2 + 2 and then 5 × 5. And then, you build it up, and then eventually you can do it. And I think you've just got to, like, if a Rokman challenge is where you want to get to, put that in your diary as like, right, next month I want to tackle that, and work backwards and say, right, where do I need to begin? If the challenge includes press-ups, well, start by doing a few weights every day. And you'll notice the differences quite quickly. And I think as soon as you start proving to yourself that, a couple of weeks ago I couldn't lift that and now I can lift it, I don't know, you start realizing what you're actually capable of. I didn't want to sit on a bike. I was just terrified of getting on a bike. And then now I'm riding TT bikes with aero bars and like taking a drink at the same time. I mean, I just never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that was going to happen. But you've got to take it that one step at a time and build your confidence up. Just do baby steps. And like I said, don't be too hard on yourself. If I'd have like come off my bike on that first ride or tried to clip in, it had gone wrong, then I wouldn't have got anywhere. But you've got to stick to it and believe that you can do it. And yeah, just keep building.
Completely. I think when people sort of look at a challenge in its entirety, it can be quite daunting and intimidating. You've really got to set yourself small, achievable, specific targets and build upon. They have to be achievable first and foremost. Like so many people I see that start running, they go, oh, I hate running. I absolutely hate running. I'm like, what? Like, if you hate running, you're doing it wrong. What are you doing? And it's like, I haven't run in 6 years. I went out for a 4-mile run. I gassed after one. I had to walk. It was freezing. I was like, you've done it completely wrong. You've set yourself too big of a target. You failed at it miserably. Now you hate it. Now your confidence is worse, and now you won't even go out again.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think people forget so often that other people they see that are at the top of whatever they do, it's like they think it just comes easy to them. It's like, it's like my friends. So my friends will so often be like, how do you motivate yourself? How do you get the motivation? Like I'm saying to you in this podcast, I don't have some like pot of motivation next to my bed that I take a little tablet every morning. Or I'm this like superhuman that just, yeah, that can get up and do it every day. I'm not. But you've just got to stick at it. You've got to take it baby steps. If when I bought my first ever road bike 4 years ago, I'd have gone, oh, I'm going to enter the world champs, or like I'm going to like try and qualify, it wouldn't have happened. And then, like I said, my confidence would have been super low. I'd have been, oh, I can't ride bikes, I hate it, and I'd have thrown it all away. Instead, you take all those little baby steps, and now it's built up to this. And people see me now and they're like, oh, she's a duathlete, she does time trials on her bikes, and she does this. And people probably look at me and think that I've cycled all my life. And actually, I only picked one up a few years ago. And yes, you just got to like have your goals, make sure, as you say, they are achievable. Don't make them too big or too challenging, and just keep building up from there.
And do you know what the funny thing is that it sounds simple, right? This sounds so simple.
Yeah,
but this little rule is applicable to the everyday athlete like myself, to a world champion athlete like yourself. There is no secret recipe formula. It's doing the basic stuff and doing it well and being consistent. I was wondering what you thought, what your thoughts on how important is sort of mental resilience in sport and fitness, and how does it transfer over to like your everyday life? Is it important? Does doing challenges help? Does it transfer into your everyday life? Are there practices that you put in place in your work life or something like that?
It's a good question. I mean, I'd say to a certain extent, yes. If I really reflected back on things, like for instance, when I was saying during lockdown, I like turned to sport and exercise as my stress relief and my get out from sort of worrying and stressing about COVID. I think you could almost probably turn that around to mental resilience. That like rather than stressing and worrying about it, it was like, okay, well, this is the situation we've all been given. This is the situation I'm in. So what can I do to make the best of me in this situation? And that for me was turning my hand to training and everything. Whereas, yeah, I guess somebody who's slightly, less mentally resilient or like hasn't quite got that same level of motivation could just go, oh, great, well, my whole life's been flipped upside down. I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm just going to sit at home and sulk. And it's like, they're not going to do anything because they can't like get past it. And I think, sorry, my medal keeps banging against the table.
Sorry, my world championship second silver medal keeps banging the table. Yeah, of course. I see.
A little humble brag there.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. Maybe put it down.
Take it off. It's fine. You can take it
off. Yeah. So I'd say to a certain extent, having those traits, which I think are definitely heightened by being in sport, then help me in my everyday life. If that makes sense. I don't think I use many tools that I use in my training or my racing in my everyday life. I think it would just be more on the other point that I guess I look at certain situations that I come across, like I said, I've had a really tough year this year for many different reasons. And rather than sitting at home and sulking or like thinking, oh, life's over, I've got nothing going for me and where am I going or whatever, it's like actually one step at a time. Like, what do you need to do to feel good today? What do you need to do to feel good tomorrow? What do you need to do to feel good by the end of the week? And you can take that into work. What do I need to do by the end of today, end of the week? And like make those kind of like goals. And yeah, eventually, it's like, I guess what I was saying before about people look at Olympic athletes and forget that they learnt to ride a bike one day or they put a pair of running shoes on for the first time one day. It's as if they think that they were just born an Olympic runner. And it's the same when you look at entrepreneurs and people probably look at you and go, wow, look at him with like this Rokman brand it's so good and he's done so well with it, but you right at the beginning didn't really know what you were going to do with Rokman, and you've kind of taken it these little stages until eventually you've like really found your feet and what you want the brand to be and how you want it to be perceived and what your values are, and now it's like kind of really established. And yeah, but from day one you wouldn't have been able to know what it was going to turn out to be. Just like when I took on duathlons, I didn't know one day I'd be competing at the world champs, but yeah, you just take it one step at a time. And I'm so sorry, I've forgotten what the original question was.
But no, that was perfect. You ended it on taking it one step at a time, because I was actually having a real good, because think about this the other day, is because obviously I've read a lot about what mental resilience is supposed to be, and I was like, well, what is it to me? What do I think it is? And I think when you talk mental strength and resilience, I think it's actually the wrong word, because to me, a lot of mental resilience is systems and mechanisms, mental mechanisms and mental systems. And it's just learning them. And one of my favorites, one of my examples is just planning. Just planning thing, forward planning for the future, or something around the corner. It can take the sting out of an obstacle. And knowledge is another one. Learning about something, because there's going to be a fear of there's quite often a fear of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. How is this going to affect me? But learning about something and planning something, well, technically that gives you mental resilience, but it's not a quantifiable strength, is it? It's just a mechanism and a system. So for me, like, you really learn them when you're going through a challenge. When you're on mile 40 of some sort of an ultra marathon, and you're really under the pressure and under stress, the planning and the that's really gone into before that, and the preparation, that's where it'll come into your own. That's what gives you the strength, I think, to carry forward. So I know you say, well, I'm going to say you're wrong now, Kathy, but like, I know you said, oh, I don't really take much into my everyday life. You really do. From my perspective,
I probably do without even realizing it.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I see it as a lot to do with mechanisms. I think that there is an aspect of stubbornness as well, which you probably again take through to your to your everyday life, but also what was it? I forgot. It's gone. What was it? Stubbornness, mechanisms. It's gone. But does that make sense? Like, because this is only a fresh thought I've had recently. I think it's wrong to call it mental strength and resilience. I will come up with a word. Mental mechanisms, maybe. That's what it should be called.
Yeah. You've got to have, like you say, you've got to have the systems in place before you go on to do something, to then make it come true almost. Like you said, like if you went into an ultra marathon without having any prep or like thought about it, then when it gets tough, you're going to find it really hard to get through that. Whereas if you've prepped and you've said to yourself, right, at some point in this is going to get really hard. What am I going to say to myself? What am I going to do for myself to get myself through it? Yeah, I mean, like, again, I'm just going back to the duathlon. I knew it was going to be a tough race. I didn't think I was going to go in there and it'd be a walk in the park. And I remember a thought coming, and I know I didn't get the gold in the end, but I remember on the bike. The day before, I told you about this guy with the vuvuzela. He said to me, "Tomorrow, I want your mind or your motivation to be, your motto to be seek and destroy." And like, seek and destroy. He's like, yeah, I want you to seek and destroy. He's like, repeat it to me. So he's like, seek and destroy, seek and destroy. And the next day when I was on the bike, I could see her in the distance. She was like right in front of me, 20 seconds ahead. I was like on my aerobics, I was like, seek and destroy, seek and destroy. I was like, come on, like, stick with her. You've got to stick with her. And I was going that. And I remember then when I got off the bike and went into the final run, I was, again, just in front of me. And I was thinking, that person right there is going to stop me not only getting the gold medal for my age group, but becoming overall world champion. I was like, she is going to stop me. And it was like, it was just playing through my head. And I know I didn't get to her. And I think it did just come down to physical at that point. I was just like dead.
I wonder what
Yeah,
was going through her head.
yeah.
You
Well, she
know,
said to me afterwards that she said like it was such a good race. She said, I knew you were on my tail the whole way. Um, but yeah, it was like, they were the kind of things that I had to say to myself during the race. Because if I'd have got on the bike and gone, oh, she's gone ahead, I'm never going to catch her. Well, it's the race is over, isn't it? But it was like that seek and destroy, seek and destroy. And I was ticking off other people because there were men racing at the same time. So every time I passed a guy or passed someone else, that was a little confidence booster as well. And so that all helped. But yeah, no, I get that. I think had I gone into that race going, oh yeah, I'm mentally resilient, but I hadn't had those things in my mind to think about, then I may have just thought, oh, this race is over, I can't catch her. Whereas instead it was like, I never gave up hope. And had she have slowed down a bit, I might have got it.
Well, well, again, like it's not a strength per se. What all you did was you just shifted your perspective.
Yeah,
That was it.
Oh my God, yes. Like now you've said that, that's like really, that's sorry, just triggered something in my head I was listening to. So this was an insight from one of the guys who drives the car in the time trials for the Tour de France. So one of the stages of the Tour de France, they do a time trial, and the coach in the car, they're like talking to the athletes, and he said when he had a chance to speak to him, this guy was in, oh, I'm not going to get this right, I'm not going to mention names because I'll probably get it wrong and somebody will pick up on it. I think this guy was in like 5th place, but there was 1 second between 2nd and 5th place. Like that's how tight it was. Yeah, it was like ridiculous. There was like seconds separating the top 10 riders. And when they were able to say something to him, rather than going, what did I say, 5th place or 7th place? 5th place.
2nd and 5th.
Yeah, okay. So when they were able to say something to him, rather than saying you're in 5th place, get quicker or be faster, you're gonna have to work harder here because you're in 5th place, they came on and said to him, you're 1.7 seconds off of 2nd place.
Yeah.
And it was that's what a good coach can do. They can shift your mindset, because if they'd have said to him you're in 5th, that athlete with 2 kilometers to go is going to go, oh God, well, how far off first am I? My age is off, or like how close is 6th behind me? It's like they almost don't know. Whereas saying to someone, you're 1.7 seconds away from a silver medal, and in this stage, well, all of a sudden that athlete is going to get that burst of adrenaline and think, right, I can get 1.7 seconds easy. Let's go after it. And the guy got it. The guy got this 2nd place, and it was, yeah, I think it was another podcast with a coach, and that's what he said. I was like, wow, that is such a good way. So now I say to my parents, when you're watching me, don't tell me where I am in the race. Tell me how far off I am from winning. Yeah. And so when I came into my final run, my dad shouted, you're 20 seconds behind. And they timed, when the girl had run past, they just timed on their watch at what point I came past. And so I knew, I was like, right, I've got 20 seconds to make up in a 5K. I was like, I've got this, I can do it. And that's why I'm ahead. I was like, she's going to take it. I mean, she did, which is really annoying. I really wish I could finish this story with and I stormed home and I got it. And unfortunately I can't, but it is exactly as you say, it's shifting that mindset.
Do you know what?
That athlete wasn't any more mentally resilient than the athlete who came 3rd. He was just given the right tools to go, right, I can do it.
Exactly. And you're all in peak physical condition. It's just, it really does come down to a mindset shift, and which can give you an activation and energy and drive. Yeah. And do you know what? It all boils down to just positive thinking. That is one of the biggest key predictors of mental strength. And do you know what? I don't think it's a key predictor of mental strength. Personally, I feel that is what mental strength is. It's a positive. It's, again, going back to the challenge. It's seeing problems as challenges, rising to it, seeing the if you're constantly being bombarded with negative vibes and comments and put downs, it's going to smash your motivation. You're not going to want to do anything. So
Yeah.
And physically, you haven't changed. Nothing about your body has changed. It is just the way you perceive what's in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah. Now you put it like that, it is just a lot of it is just positive thinking, not putting yourself down, not being too hard on yourself.
And then we go back to when we were saying, like, from our perspectives, that females suffer more with lack of confidence and self-belief. And I wish I could just tell them it's just a shift. Well, tell anyone, it's not a female problem. It's not exclusive. It's men as well. Men have these problems. It's just a shift in your perspective. It's just, that's why it's not necessarily a strength. This is what I'm trying to get across now. It's not necessarily a strength. You can work it, but it's just a perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I mean. I don't have a bottle of motivation next to my bed but it's just that you've got to have positive thoughts and really believe that you can do it, and yeah, keep your goal in mind. But as you say, just positive thinking about the whole thing, believe you can do it.
How do you maintain a healthy well-being, Kathy?
Probably
It's not true.
probably not got the healthiest of well-beings. In what sense? So
I suppose a mental balance. How do you manage stress and pressure? I'll give you some examples from mine and hope maybe you'll get it. But like, it's do you partake in any mindful activities? So you've had a tough day in work. How do you unwind? There we are. Perfect. How do you unwind? Do you like to socialize? Do you like to garden? Do you like to hula hoop? Do you like to go on walks? Do you listen to music?
I love hula hooping. I wish I could do that to stress relief after work.
Just going to do 20 minutes on hula.
Socializing, 100%. I'm definitely a social butterfly. Love to chat. Love to see my friends. So yeah, that's a big one. And actually, like with my Instagram and stuff, I just have thousands of people to constantly chat to now. So that takes up a lot of my time. But I would say it's really bad, right? Because I think a lot of people probably want to hear me say, oh, you need that downtime and you need me time. I actually don't have a lot of that. I'm one of these people that is like, every minute has to be productive, but it does take its toll. I mean, if I'm really getting into it, I watch rubbish TV. My career, I produce documentaries, so it's like you'd think I'd go home and watch really good films or really good documentaries, but actually I just like switching off completely and watching just reality TV. And I tend to switch off from that. I think stress relief for me is my exercise. Definitely. Like if I'm super stressed and I go for a run, I'll run really well because it's almost like it's sort of radiating off of me. And then I'd say one thing that I have really loved, I think you touched on it about the mindfulness, is yoga, and in particular hot pod yoga. And I am an ambassador for Hot Pod Yoga Northwich, but I'm not just saying it because I'm an ambassador. I have been going to Hot Pod for years before I became an ambassador. And there's just something about stepping into this like warm, dark, lovely pod. And it's like you get in there and it's just all about you. And what I never knew about yoga, which I've learned very recently, is the reason it's so good for your mind is because you actually can't think about anything else whilst you're doing yoga but your body. So when you're trying to do a really difficult position, you're thinking, right, concentrate on that spot because I need to keep my balance. Oh, my foot's shaking a bit, try and solve that, move my right arm. And without even knowing it, your brain is thinking about every part of your body. And it's all about, right, how can I do this position and hold my balance and keep that strength going? And that's why at the end of yoga, you feel so good, because for a whole hour, you've been so in tune with your own body and your own thoughts and nothing else has crept in. And there's some days where I mean, you could speak to my friends. I literally come into the hot pod yoga and I'm in tears or I'm in stressed or I'm super buzzing and like got all this adrenaline pumping through me. Like this week when I came back with the medal, it was like, And I went into the pod, I was like, how am I going to calm down? I don't think I can be calm enough to do yoga right now. And it's so like, very quickly you control your breathing, slow everything down, and you just in your own head and you come out and you're like, oh, I feel amazing. And so I'd say like I do that once a week, and it's become like a very big thing for me. So yeah, I'd say like those three, like seeing people, reality TV, and a bit of yoga. And I think my head is, and holidays. Of course, everyone's got to have a holiday every now and again.
Well, yeah, which has been taken away from us for the last 2 years. It is
I know. But I actually went straight to Barcelona after the World Champs because I just thought I know I'll need that like place to just like sort of be free, like step away from work, step away from training, and just be in Barcelona for a few days. And yeah, that was really good. I think you've got to have those sorts of things to look forward to.
Well, I find what you're saying about the yoga and just being with yourself and in tune with your body and not thinking about the outside world. I think in these modern times, we're so plugged in to the mainframe constantly. There's input constant. I don't know about you, but I think I stare at a screen probably 90% of my day.
Easy.
So to have those that hour where you haven't got your phone in your hand, you're not being hounded by other stresses and pressures, work commitments, family commitments, just an hour to yourself. I think, like, honestly, it's so important, because if you don't get that break, things can really build. And you don't want to go have that for too long, because you could end up snapping, so it's really important.
And I've snapped a few times. But yeah, like the yoga this year has been unbelievable for me. And that's why I'm actually so proud to be like an ambassador for them as well, because alongside Rokman, because
second to Rokman.
it's like a good, I guess, like Rokman, you come into, I've got you in my head when I'm in the gym and I'm like getting the ball, I'm like slamming it on the ground and like doing all of that. And then when I'm in yoga, it's like a complete switch off to all of that. But yeah, I just, like you say, I think it's so important. I don't know what it is about the pods, but honestly, you're like transported into another world. And I think because the lights are dimmed down, I've done yoga outside of the pod and it is not the same. I don't get the same effect from it. But when you're in that pod and the lights are turned down, you're not even seeing anyone else in the class. Because again, I think when I first started going, I was like, I don't know how to do yoga. I can't do it. I'm not flexible. And you think like, oh, everyone's watching me. You worry about like your leggings being see-through or like, silly little things like that. And rather than thinking about the position you're doing or stretching a bit further or controlling your breathing, you're thinking, can the woman see my polka dot knickers behind me? Do you know what I mean? And like, whereas in the pod, it's like everything's dimmed down. It's like this, like music's on, and they like put like scents in there, so it smells really nice. And it's just this like really lovely environment. And then you get into the yoga and you are not thinking about anyone. You're not looking at anyone else. You're just all in your own, like on your mat in your own little world. And it's brilliant.
Kathy, you've sold it to me. I'll do it. I think
there's one in Cardiff actually.
I'll take a look. Bloody pricey though, isn't it? It's like £10 a time or something.
Yeah, but you can do like intro offers and taster sessions.
True. I'll turn up one week like me, and the next week I'll have a moustache on and pretend I'm someone new. Get another free episode session. What does the future hold for Kathy Stringer then? What's next?
I've been asked this a lot recently, and I would say I just want to have a bit more fun with everything. So this year for me has been very intense. It's like a lot has gone on in my personal life. I've like uprooted to Cheshire. I was living in Bristol, and that was a big change. I'm working from home. Like my job slightly changed. Like so much has happened. And then alongside that, I've had like race after race after race, and it's been very intense. And I remember when I finished the national champs, which were back in like April, and my coach was like, yeah, enjoy a glass of champagne. And then on my Instagram, I posted me having a glass of champagne, and then another one, and he messaged me again, like, not too many. And I was like, oh, that's rubbish. Like, I just want to enjoy myself. Like, I've just become national champion. Like, this is amazing. I was like on this high. And all of a sudden it was like, no, but, in 4 more weeks, you've got this race. And then after that, you've got this race. And it was like, I just never felt like I could fully enjoy the moment. And actually looking back, that national race was the best I think apart from the Worlds, that was the best I've raced. I kind of got a PB. I just achieved loads in that race that I never expected. And I wish I'd sort of enjoyed myself a bit more. So I think going forwards to this year, I don't want that just succession of like, after that you've got this, after that you've got this, and it's all very intense, and make sure your diet's good and this is good, and sacrifice birthdays and everything else. I just, whilst I'm at this age and I'm this fit, I want to do a few more challenges. So actually, I've never been able to do a full Rokman challenge. I think I did 3 weeks of one at the beginning of this year.
You missed out by one challenge.
I know, and I had to miss it out because my training was so rigorous. It was like, no, you can't possibly replace your session with that because it'll ruin this, it'll ruin that. That's like how specific my training plan was. So like this year, I want to do a Rokman. I want to earn my first pip.
Yeah, it's like you're pipless, man.
I know, I'm pipless. I need a pip. I need this to be like full of them. I'm like,
Yeah, too right.
I want to do that. I want to do, so like me and my friend are planning a Le Jog, Land's End to John O'Groats trip on our bikes. I want to try, so there's a bit like how you've got Ironman for triathlon, you've got the Powerman for duathlon. So it's longer distance. So I'd really like to try a Powerman duathlon this year. And maybe an ultra marathon. I want to try and get into the London Marathon. I want to get a half marathon PB. There's me being like, I don't want race after race. Yeah. Here I am. That's probably be about 50 weekends, isn't it?
You've just filled your calendar up, yeah.
I know. That's the problem with me. I want to do it all now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just have more fun. Like if I can't make a session because it's my mate's birthday and I'm in London celebrating with the girls, I don't want to have to text my coach saying, I'm really sorry, I can't do it because of this, that and the other. Mm-hmm. But like, don't get me wrong, the hardest thing is, as I said, that month up to the World Champs, I was thinking, I hate this. And my friend and I went out Manchester weekend, and she was laughing at me because she said, I wish I'd have recorded you saying what you said, because she said, I was this close to just pulling the plug. She was like, you looked depressed, you looked exhausted, you looked like you were just hating life. And she was like, I just wanted to pull the plug on it all and tell you that you didn't need to do it. And then at the weekend when we were out, she was like, please tell me you're just rested now. I was like, oh no, I'm doing the National and British Champs in March and April, and then I'm doing Land's End to John O'Groats in end of April, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. Oh, and I think I'm going to double the distance of the duathlons I've been doing and go for the power. And she was like, what?
What is wrong with you? Yeah.
It's funny. It's like when you achieve what you or like almost achieve what you set out to do, and like the race is done, you forget about all the months of slog and grafting. Mm-hmm. It's like I've got this now, so just whack myself in the face. I've got this. It's like none of that matters anymore because I've got it, and like what a great, the elation of winning this medal and standing on that podium and everything just surpasses any pain I had before. And you forget about it all, and then now you're like, yeah, I'll do it all over again. And women say the same about giving birth. It's like the time you're like, I'll never do this again, and then you forget it, and you just have a beautiful child, and you think, I want another one. And and I'd say that's the closest I can describe it. It's like when my friends are like, but you hate it. I'm like, no, but I don't. I just hated that little bit, and now I really want to do it all over again.
Would you do the Worlds then? Would you aim for the Worlds again, or are you moving on to pastures new?
So, good question. I think I definitely want to go back and do the Worlds at some point. I really do want the gold medal. I've got a bronze and a silver now, so I need to complete the collection. But maybe not next year. Mm-hmm. I think it's too much. I think I've got a new job, which
congratulations.
Thank you. So I actually found out yesterday, and I'm starting that in January. And so that's going to be a big change for me. I'm probably going to be moving back down to Bristol. Like, quite a lot of stuff is going to be going on alongside my training. And I just don't want that pressure from every side. I don't want the pressure of like, you've started a new job, you've got to do this, you've got to get a new car, you've got to train hard. It's like, if in January I think, I've got to work on my career right now, then my training's got to take a back seat. And I don't want to make myself feel guilty for that or put too much pressure on. But if I've automatically qualified for the World Championships next year, so because of my placing, so if I
go along for a jolly,
yeah,
And the last minute,
if I feel like I want to go and it's in a cool place, then yeah.
oh, Kathy, just let yourself go. Get really fat and just squeeze yourself into that leotard and just turn up on the start line. What time are you starting? That'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's funny. And so a few people have said to me, like, am I going to go elite? Like, a lot of people think that I'm capable and got the potential to go elite. But my God, that is like another step up. It's, yeah, you really have, my coach said to me, you're not training right now any more than an elite athlete would, but it's everything else that's got to give. Like, the only difference between me and an elite, or me and a professional, is rest. You've got to give yourself that time to rest. And so if you've got a job, if you want to go out and socialize, if you want to do all that other stuff, that's what you got to give. And I think at my age and stuff, I'm quite happy trying to balance the two. I don't think I want to give up my life to go and do this fully. So yeah.
Well, you've got your priorities, and it's good. You concentrate on yourself and your health and your well-being this year. It'd be nice to see, because I know how stressful the last 2 years were for you. And it makes me proud to see you sitting there with the medal. Right, it was all worth it. It was all worth it.
It was so worth it. Yeah. Honestly, I'd do it all again to get it. Yeah, it's great. I can't wait till I have like my own pain cave. And this is like a terminology that cyclists use, like where your turbo is and stuff, and you call it your pain cave. And like, so many people have these really great pain caves where they've got all their medals hanging up and all their race numbers. And right now I just train in a garage in the freezing cold with like toolboxes around me. And I can't wait till I've got somewhere to hang these up and actually look at them every day and be really sort of proud of what I've achieved.
No, Kathy, keep it rough and raw, spit and sawdust. As soon as you make it comfortable for yourself, you're going to lose that edge. Okay,
yeah, so maybe.
Yeah, you stay in the garage. You let the other people get soft in their air conditioned side gyms and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, where can people find you if they want to follow you and your progress and your adventures?
So the best place to find me is Instagram, and my handle is stringer_run, but Stringer, take out all the vowels. So it's STRNGR_run. Don't ask me why, it's just something I came up with at the time. And yeah, everything's on there. And I've got, my vlog from the World Championships. I'll be uploading to IGTV very soon, hopefully. There's plenty of reels, stories. Yeah, it's all on there.
Cracking. Kathy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really enjoyed that. And you've given me as much insight into a few things that, I think you actually gave more insight than I think I just waffled on.
But no, that you gave me insight and information. It's been fantastic, and inspiration as well. So no, thank you very much. Good luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you very much. Hopefully Rokman will be right there with me.
Of course we will. Of course we will.
John Groats.
Well, I won't be there for that. No, but I can barely cycle.
Yes, you can, Taz. One step at a time.
Yeah, true. Like, I'm supposed to be the bloody leader of mental resilience movement, so yeah, maybe I should. I'll break the bike out with the stabilizers and I'll get on it. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Kathy, and we will talk soon. Ta-ra!
Bye.